You're listening to the DC Comics Chronicles, where we cover every adventure from the streets of Gotham to the skies of Metropolis and into the depths of Atlantis. With your hosts, Adam and the Emerald Enthusiast.
Welcome to another episode of the DC Comics Chronicles. As always, I'm your host, Adam. And with me is my co-host, Donnie, the Emerald Enthusiast himself. Donnie, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, comic book fans? It's the man whose ring runs on fanboy energy, the podcasting machine, the big nerd in green. It's the Emerald Enthusiast, and today we're going to talk about Batman 3 Jokers.
Indeed we are. And for the people that are actually watching the vidcast version of this episode, you can see we have a guest. And so I'm going to let Donnie do his patented introductions that all of our guests have enjoyed so much. So Donnie, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all beings of the Omniverse, please welcome from the Nerd Room podcast, Batman aficionado, McFarlane figure collector, this is Carlos DM.
Holy smokes, that's quite the introduction, man. Like, yeah. I feel like my wrestling intro music should play and the fireworks going off. Amazing.
Yeah, Adam always calls me Howard Finkel. So.
Yeah, I told him you should start charging for like phone messages. Like you can record somebody's ringtone or phone messages. It makes some extra side money. That's right.
Did you see my phone message on YouTube?
I haven't watched that yet.
I did. Yeah, that's the Kilowog phone message. I told people they could just rip the audio and put it on their phone.
Yeah, I gotta check that out because I was too busy watching your action figure, one of your action figure reviews, which then causes me to spend money. So maybe I should avoid those. I'll just retweet it from now on. But Carlos, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm honored to be invited on as a guest, and even more honored to be able to talk about this incredible book.
Yeah, especially to talk this particular story, which of course is Batman 3 Jokers, which was released 2019, 2020. That's the beautiful hardcover edition.
Beauty, man.
Which I double dipped for that. I bought the single issues. I bought it digitally, and triple dipped actually, and the hardcover. So DC, when I say take my money, they took me up on that offer for this particular story. But Carlos, this being your first time here and it being a Batman episode, I'm required to ask you certain questions. So when did you first experience Batman, shall we say?
Experience Batman, man. I'm an old school OG, and like our boy the Emerald Enthusiast can probably attest to our generation of fans. It was the Super Friends. So the old Super Friends segueing into the Superpowers show, and for me it was Superman was, every little kid latches onto that guy, but Batman and Robin and that Superpowers Batmobile. And yeah, he became my main back then, and then of course everything kind of hit wildfire status in '89. But yeah, I've been ride and die since I was in diapers with the Dark Knight.
Yeah. Okay, so with that being said, do you remember your first Batman comic book?
Oh shoot, ish. It's gonna be one of the DC Digest type of thing. Like, I don't know a period of time in my life without Batman comic books, and yeah, I had a stack of the Digest. A lot of my comics when I was a kid growing up were by way of hand-me-downs, or there was like this neighbor guy who would bequeath me comic collection, being like, "Dude, you need to have something to fill your days with, so here you go," type of thing. So yeah, I don't remember specifically what issue it was, but yeah, I got fond memories of pouring through those digests and all the great stories that Denny O'Neil and Jim Aparo and those guys used to put forth in those. So
I officially want you to come back now just because you used the word bequeath correctly.
Oh, we've already been talking about potential follow-up episodes, so that
all right,
it's not a concern, definitely. And so this kind of segues into the next question. Do you have a particular favorite Batman story, like a comic story?
Yeah,
be it a graphic novel or single issue, whatever.
Yeah, to be honest, my favorite, and it's one that's not overly known, is Batman the Cult. I absolutely adore that story just because it's about that thing that I think is the most important about Batman is he's the guy that never gives up, doesn't have any superpowers. He is a human being and can be broken down. And you see Bruce get taken on a journey in that book to the absolute lowest of lows, and it's just kind of sheer force of will that he comes back and is able to take back Gotham City kind of thing. So yeah, it's a pretty special story, and honestly, it's informed a lot of things that have come since, but doesn't get all the credit that I think it probably deserves. But yeah, Batman the Cult. It's also the coolest appearance of Jason Todd outside of the Red Hood costume, in my opinion.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I've read that one. Yeah, I just had to double check it and make sure I read that one. But I think I have. That was a 4-issue miniseries, right?
It was, yeah.
Okay, so I do have it because I remember buying my comic guy had the single issues, and he's like, "Oh, look what I found digging through my back issues," and he shows me them. He's like, "You want them?" And I'm like, "Is breathing essential to life? Like you're asking me for classic single issue Batman stuff that I never got a chance to buy when I was a kid, and you're asking me if I want them. What kind of question is that?" So I do have that story for sure.
The guy who just claimed a triple dip. I'm guessing you were weak against it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's kryptonite. That's my kryptonite. There we go.
As Grodd would say, human weak.
yeah, exactly. All right, so favorite live action Batman movie?
Oh shoot, we're gonna go there, eh?
I'm going to hard questions.
Yeah, like the nostalgic answer would be probably Batman Returns, but for my money, I think the best distillation of Batman as a character, or kind of my favorite flavor of Batman, would actually be the newest movie in The Batman. Because and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about the cult. Like that's the one time you see that character as a guy kind of who has his issues, and not everything comes to him easy. So yeah, the Batman.
Awesome. And then, so I don't know if this will inform your next answer, but favorite live action Batman actor?
To be honest, like he had the worst material, but I think Affleck is the best Batman. Like visually, he's got the presence, he's got the look with especially when he wears the wig and stuff like that, and he has a ton of untapped potential. I don't think he had the right stuff to work with, but I think to get that prototypical comic book Batman, that's the guy who's closest to it.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I would agree with that from the aesthetic, the whole, and especially you're right with the wig. I just noticed this not too long ago when I guess he was doing reshoots for Aquaman or what have you. It really is, when you look at it, it's like the Batman the Animated Series Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
It's the closest iteration to that we've had, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, I would tend to agree with those points that you made there. And then final question. This could be something you've already said, or it could be something new. But in terms of media outside of comic books, what is your favorite interpretation? It could be animation, it could be whatever.
Oh yeah, it's like Batman the Animated Series is perfection, right? Yeah. So it's hard to argue against anything other than that. So yeah.
Awesome.
So many people love that series.
I couldn't agree more with that. That was everything when I was what was it, 92 when it came out? So I was 9.
92 to 97, I believe.
I was 9, so it was the double punch of Batman Returns and Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, who is who is on the Hall of Fame list, the Multiverse Wives, Michelle Pfeiffer. And then Earth 92, because I used the CW Infinite Crisis kind of scale for that one to make it easier, because I got a lot of Earths that I got to deal with, so that made it easier. But yeah, that show just like I can watch that over and over again. I never get sick of it. and I look forward to the Cape Crusader, whatever streaming service it ends up on. And I can't wait for that to come out. All right, so we've got Carlos's kind of favorites and bona fides out of the way. We don't have much news, Donnie, as we always cover news before we get into our main topic. But in terms of news, we know that Black Adam is upon us. Finally, a new DC live action movie is about to hit our screens. And of course, October 21st is when Black Adam is supposed to land in theaters. And it has been projected from, I believe, boxoffice.com. They have their early outset projections of the domestic opening weekend. And they are saying that it should open between $55 and $70 million domestically. What are your thoughts on that number? Do you guys think it's a good start? Were you guys expecting more? So, Carlos, you being the guest, take it away.
Yeah, I think it's an absolutely solid start for like a DC Universe movie. Like, I think if we're going to be looking at box office numbers, you got to kind of take the MCU out of things just because they are an entity unto themselves. But the 55 million, which is at the low end of the projection, would put it in a top 10, if not top 5 opening for October all time anyways. So that's an extremely solid start. Kind of my take with all things DC is I think they do solid work. So it's a matter of just getting a decent sized audience to get eyeballs on right away. I'm assuming the movie's going to be quite the crowd pleaser. So then it can just get its legs and kind of go from there. And yeah, you know what? If you have a 1-2 punch in November right through to Christmas of Black Adam and Black Panther, I think you're sitting in a pretty good spot. So yeah, as long as it's profitable and people like it and want to come back for more, you need to put it in the same position Shazam is, where it made a decent amount of money, nothing to write home about, but I think the sequel will kick the doors off the joint.
Sure, for Shazam, I agree. Donnie, what's your take on that projected number or range of numbers?
This film has a lot of factors working for it. Number one, again, people are wanting to see what role Superman plays in this. Number two, people really do want to see where DC is going to go cinematically from this point after all of the, chaos and the upheaval. And number three, again, you're talking about the biggest action star in the world. You may not like The Rock, but there is no denying this guy's star power. People are going to want to see this. Now, whether it has legs, we don't know that yet. But that first weekend, if it breaks records or it's up there, it won't be shocking to me at all.
Right. Yeah. For my take, I think that's a solid number for several reasons. Even on the
I thought for 1 second that the recording had stopped again. I was wrong.
No, it's still going.
Okay.
And the reason Donnie is worried is because last week we sat here and recorded a review for Thor: Love and Thunder, only to realize that we recorded 3 minutes of said review.
Yeah.
And then
it's funny now. It wasn't funny at the time.
Not that I love talking to Donnie anyway, so we don't have to record when we talk. But it just bugs me that we did, and Skype decided, you know what? Not today.
Adam said, hold on, let me get off of here and call you right back and see how much of the video recorded. And as soon as I saw him come back, he was like,
yeah, I had the Picard facepalm gif, in live action. But so in terms of my perception of it, I think that's a solid number. Even on the low end, if it's 55, that's pretty much what the first Shazam opened up to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Donnie alluded to, yes, The Rock is the biggest action star in the world. No doubt about that. And he'll put butts in seats. The reason why, because I know I saw some fans on the cesspool that is Twitter saying, well, that's too low and that's a disappointment. You got to understand that I know who Black Adam is. Donnie knows who Black Adam is. Carlos knows who Black Adam is. But average Joe Public on the street has no idea who Black Adam is. So,
or the JSA for that matter.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. Like, we know who the JSA is. The general public would be like, you mean the Justice League? And it's like, no, not the Justice League. So you have to take into account that the average person doesn't know who these characters are. So, I think that is at play here. It's not like, Man of Steel opened to 115 million because it's Superman.
Right.
Everybody and their mother and their grandmother and their aunt, their second cousin, third cousin, everybody knows who Superman is.
Right? So, you're talking about one of 7 characters that's been like adapted on every continent on the planet.
Yeah, and so
Superman.
The Suicide Squad, the first Suicide Squad, I got to quantify. The original Suicide Squad opened to 103 million because it had Harley Quinn, the Joker, and it had that one shot of Batman that they kept replaying over and over again. So that was a selling point for that.
Can you tell us a little bit about Margot Robbie, Adam?
How could I tell you? I had to tell you she's my Earth One wife, and here's the pen. So on the list.
That's what I wanted.
But I know you wanted the pen. I know everybody wants to. I'm gonna start charging. It's gonna be a Patreon exclusive. We're gonna do that. But no. So you can't look at the first 3 or 4 DC films and say, well, why isn't it? If it comes out on the lower end, why isn't it matching those? Because those were dealing with the heavy hitters of the DC universe that everybody knew. Now we're getting into the B characters, if you will, B plus, kind of characters. It's not going to be as readily recognizable. And again, like you said, Carlos, we got to take the Marvel aspect out of the equation because that brand, Kevin Feige can post a video of him reading the newspaper on the toilet, and that would probably open to $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather not see that, but that's
wouldn't be something I want to watch.
Yeah.
But I'm just hypothetically.
Worst post-credit scene ever.
Absolutely. Well, that and Howard the Duck, because I had to go to the washroom and I waited around for Howard the Duck. Thanks for nothing. But anyway, so you can't. I mean, you look at you look at the first Thor, and it's not like it did gangbusters. So, you have to take these things, the recognizability of the character into account. And so, but I think The Rock will propel it, and I think it will open. Me personally, I think it will open on the higher side, and I'm sure between now and then they'll kick in and they'll push harder on the marketing. So there's a chance that it could open higher than the 70 million mark, but we'll see. But either way, I think if it opens up in that range, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, there'll be some surprises, right? Like you look at when they did the energy drink launch with the Black Adam cans. Yeah. I guess it was chaos because so many people showed up, like 50 times more than what he expected to show up at that event type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there's no denying the guy's popularity, and you just look at like his clothing line with Under Armour, that stuff sells out almost instantly all the time. Can't get any of his products. So, he knows how to market a movie. He knows how to play a crowd, like even just small stuff like taking that 1 second, not even a second, of Steppenwolf out of that trailer, but promoting the fact that he did it, and all of a sudden he's got all these people that were railing against him promoting his trailer and calling him boss and trying to get on his good side.
Boss, king, whatever else they call Zach on a good day. Nonsense. Anyway, so I'm hopeful that we're going to do well here with this movie. Mm-hmm. Speaking of, Donnie alluded to, as we were talking about Superman. Now,
I got to ask Carlos a question before we get off the Black Adam subject, though.
Yeah.
Have you seen the McFarlane deluxe figure of Sabak?
I haven't seen it in person. I've seen Adam Smasher, and he's pretty impressive.
I saw Sabak up close. I didn't buy it because it was $45 at the place that was selling it, but man, sweet figure.
Stop it, Donnie. You're going to make us all up. Look, hold on, wait. While we're on the topic, look what arrived. Can you see? It's glaring.
That Hawkman figure's so good, man.
There
so
he
good.
is. And that's thanks to both of you in various respects. Like I said, my wallet is yelling at me right now saying, don't even think about it. But Donnie alluded to Superman, and there is enough chatter coming from scoopers and insiders that I think are reliable that I'm starting to believe that we are going to see Henry Cavill return as Superman in some sort of post-credit, mid-credit sequence in this film. Again, I'm not basing my entire potential enjoyment of this film on him appearing, because I'm still taking these credible people are suggesting it, but I'm still I'll believe it when I see it, because I've been burned way too many times of, the cape's still in my closet, all that jargon and nonsense. So I'm a little closer to believing it, but I'm still, I'll believe it on October 21st when I see him in the thing. But assuming that he does appear, let's take this at face value, that he's in it, great. There's been a big hoopla on the cesspool, as I mentioned earlier, that, well, what color suit is he wearing? He, the cultist, not the book that Carlos mentioned, the cul-de-sac cultist, I call them. He better be in the black suit, because otherwise it's a betrayal of Zack Snyder's vision. All the insiders are saying he's in his traditional red and blue suit, which, I'm sorry, that's Superman's outfit, that's his color scheme, that's what he should be wearing. Why, I've never seen, in all my years of being a Superman fan, since about 1993, when I really started, my Superman fascination started kicking in. Never before have I seen this much whining, complaining about which version of the suit Superman's in. I don't understand why this has to be an issue.
Yeah, I think it's because Snyder
Make it make sense.
Yeah, he did that interview a while ago saying that he had a specific trajectory for that black suit and where it belongs and in the timeline of Henry Cavill's Superman. But yeah, for me, it's like, dude, you don't own that character, and you're not the person that dictates how everybody else gets to handle those characters, right? So it's even just like, we've brought him up before. So Thor, the way that Kenneth Branagh handled Thor versus how the Russo brothers used him in their movies, and Joss Whedon in his, and then Taika Waititi in the films that he did. Like, either you give these people some artistic latitude or you don't. And I'm sure everybody, Henry Cavill included, wants to present the return of his Superman in the best light possible. And hate to break it to you, the best light possible is in that glorious red and blue.
Yeah.
Probably accompanied by the Williams theme. So
and you know what? Look, I'm gonna be a jerk and say, look, if I like the Hans Zimmer theme just fine. So if that actually ends up in the movie, cool. But man, I want to hear that Williams theme just to watch the meltdown. I'll be sitting here with popcorn when I return from the theater, just watching the tweets roll in. Like that's what it's going to be if he shows up with the Williams theme. Donnie, what do you take? Where do you stand on the black or red and blue? Like, where do you stand on this whole issue?
I think you ought to be in green. I was kidding. Anyway.
Well, there is a precedent for that in the comics. So.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Now, DC, if they're going to honor tradition, most people know how Superman looks. Okay. They have an idea, the red and blue suit. Okay. Nothing, Adam and I talked about how much we like the Zack Snyder version of the Justice League. But again, that is a small amount of people who watched it on HBO, even if it is, what was it?
It's a global phenomenon, Donnie. Come on, what are you talking about?
1.4 million. Okay, that's just a sliver of the audience that are going to be watching possibly Black Adam. Okay. And again, they are by no means chained to that continuity. Just like we always say, Adam, DC is not one actor, one director, one particular continuity. DC is many things, ongoing and unending.
Yeah, amen to that, man.
Yeah, to me, it all boils down to if Cavill shows up, that gives us a kind of an answer of, at least in some form, where and who Superman is going to be, which is all I really wanted to know. I like, where's the character? What are we doing with him? Because he's too big to just languish and sit and do nothing with. So that will give me that answer. And Do I like him in the black suit in the Return of Superman story when he first comes back? Yes, because there was an explanation for that. Did I like the electric, blue and red Superman temporarily as an interesting aside, knowing that it wasn't going to be permanent because nothing in comics is ever permanent? Yeah, and plus, look, I like the blue and white version of Superman because it mimicked leaf colors, so I was partial to that. But I didn't want it to stay there forever because the Leafs disappoint me, and so far Superman rarely has. So I wanted to keep that tradition going. So to me, it's red and blue. Whether the trunks are there, not there, whether there's an S on the back of the cape, if it is there, cool. If it's not there, I don't care. But the guy's got to be in red and blue. Unless you're telling me an Elseworld story, and I know that it's a temporary alteration. I don't need to see Superman in black. Batman wears black. I don't need to see Superman scowling and looking constipated. Batman does that. Just give me, there's nothing wrong with traditional Superman. And I don't mean give me a copy and paste job of Christopher Reeve. Look at the comic books. Look at Superman the Animated Series. That is quintessential traditional Superman. There's nothing wrong with that. If you think there is something wrong with that and he's got to be tweaked to be cool, you really don't like the character in the first place, and B, you've missed the mark. The reason why Superman's in this state of flux is because they haven't given the audience a recognizable version of Superman on film.
Yeah, well, and we need to tick that box, right? Because we got a great Superman on TV. The Superman comic books are probably the strongest they've been in the last 10 years. They are wonderful right now. A lot of the minis and kind of self-contained stuff has been awesome, and there's a cool looking Superman animated series on the horizon there. So we just got to get that live action version fitting into that silo as well, and all systems go.
So there's one thing you guys haven't considered though, and that is that it's actually The Rock playing a dual role. We're going to see the live action version of Krypto with Black Adam.
That would be interesting.
I'm kidding.
At this point, if that would happen, again, the explosion online would be hilarious. At this point, I'm preparing for it either way, because if Cavill is somehow not in this thing, it's going to be a disaster online.
Oh,
if he is, but he's accompanied by the Williams theme and in a red and blue, there's going to be some people that are mad. And so either way, I'm going to be like, all right, let's get the plan. I'm going to bring leftover popcorn home on purpose that night, just because either way, I know we're going to get some entertainment.
Yeah.
But we're all in agreement what Superman should be wearing, and we will see on October 21st if these insiders and scoopers are actually worth any of their salt. We'll find out. But whether Cavill shows up or not, I am eagerly anticipating Black Adam, one way or the other. So that's where I stand.
Absolutely, man.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and on the other side, we will review and discuss Batman 3 Jokers. So stay tuned.
Don't go anywhere, and get your popcorn ready.
What's up, everyone? It's the Emerald Enthusiast. For all of your multiverse viewing and listening needs, check out our shows, which include Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Power Rangers, the Marvel Universe, and the DC Universe, including the Emerald Echo podcast. You can check us out on Podbean, and remember to subscribe right here on YouTube. That's the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network. From the first podcast to the last.
And we're back!
Indeed we are, and as promised, it's time to do a deep dive of Batman 3 Jokers. So, Donnie, as always, give us the credits and a brief summation of what went on in this fantastic story.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. Batman 3 Jokers from the DC Black Label line We've got Jeff Johns, Jason Fabok, and Brad Anderson credited here. So, Three Jokers is the name of a supervillain group from the DC storylines Darkseid War and Batman Three Jokers. And it's a reimagining, a tweaking of the Joker's origins, separating the Joker into three distinct characters who represent different incarnations. And what we have is the criminal, the clown, and the comedian. So, early thoughts when you guys first heard this. What did you think?
I was fascinated to see where they would take it and how deep a dive they would go into not only the origin of the Joker, but if they would actually play with the concept and establish something that was going to be ongoing in their regular continuity and stuff, because you didn't know, right? The way they preface this, it's like, well, is he going to retcon what the Joker has historically been in the books so that it could have been any one of these three in anything that you've read in the years since whatever 1982 when Crisis happened? Or is this going to establish that there's three Jokers now point forward? Because they kind of had that moment of Batman in the Mobius chair, right, where he's like
right.
names kind of thing with the Joker. So I probably put a little bit too much credence on that single panel of Darkseid War at first when I was speculating as to what this book was going to be. But it doesn't take long to realize what it is once you actually start reading the story. And what it is fantastic.
Yeah, I had always thought, I was like, oh, are they gonna suggest that there's three of them running around, which would in my estimation, I'm like, that would make sense, because, you know, if we're taking all of continuity, right, and saying in some way, shape, or form it all counts, like I can excuse that Batman's been around since 1939 and do some finagling in my head, but, you know, like with the Joker, it's like he's had, if you look at the different eras, there have been, I mean, it's the same, the general idea is the same, but there's slightly different tweaks to his personality in the different eras, right? Which you see in this book through the embodiment of these three characters. So it's like, that would actually be an interesting explanation for how his crimes have, like, sort of escalated over the decades and gotten more violent and more, you know, sometimes he's more chaotic, sometimes he's more of a meticulous planner, you know. So like there's different ranges to the Joker. So I'm like, that would be an interesting way to play it. But again, I wasn't wholly sure about where they were going to go. But the way it all unfolded, I was like, this is fascinating. And I knew I was more excited than trepidatious when I first heard the announcement, and simply because I knew if Jeff Johns is writing this, that guy is somebody that can handle this and pull it off. Whatever it's going to be, if anybody's going to pull it off, there are a select few, but he's one of them that I knew could pull it off.
Yeah. Well, you know, with a guy like him that he's not going to walk all over the history of the DC universe, right? Just because he has quite the reverence for it. So,
well, let me point out just a few things about these versions. So we have the comedian, which is the mentally ill comedian who was a failed stand-up comedian, and who, it's at least within this story, it's implied that he's the one that shot Barbara Gordon in the spine and psychologically tortured her father at an amusement mile. Okay, again, that's the comedian. The clown, this version of the Joker, this is kind of a more lighthearted, goofy, the prankster type version. The one who had the henchman named Gaggy. Okay. Yeah. This is the one who created the laughing fish and murdered, at least we think, Jason Todd, or tried to murder Jason Todd. Then we have the criminal, who is the original mastermind and who is the most focused on goals of the three versions of the Joker. Mm-hmm. By the way, Carlos, do you have that GameStop exclusive version, the McFarlane, the one, I think it's the comedian.
Yeah, I just actually glanced over at him right now. But
awesome.
yeah,
We're on the same wavelength, man.
yeah, he was my favorite of the three for sure. Was the comedian. I was just thinking like, oh shoot, I wish I'd bought like an extra one.
But I'm glad that they had every so often, depending on which one you were seeing, it'd be like number one, the criminal, or because to keep track of, okay, which one am I dealing with now? Like, there are slight differences to their look, but I mean, when you're getting so wrapped up in everything that's going on in Jason Fabok's art, it's like if you don't have that reference, it's like, oh yeah, okay, this is this one, right? Because like his art is so beautiful that you just get swept up in it. That it's like it'd be easy to forget which Joker am I dealing with here.
And really, his art carries the first few pages of the story. There's very little dialogue. He's telling the story and a lot of history with Batman and his villains.
Yeah. First of all, I love the opening where he crashes into the like he's so injured. Batman's so injured that with the Batmobile he crashes into the gravestone of his father.
Mm-hmm.
And like Alfred's kind of carrying him to the table where he's gonna like stitch him up. And the other thing, he's like, Alfred, my parents. He's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll attend. It's like it's happened before. I'll attend to the gravestone as soon as I fix you up, right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
he's like, I'll fix their markers as soon as I fix you.
Yeah, and then I loved the implementation of flashbacks to kind of chronicle where Batman got all those scars.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very clever, and the fact that the flashbacks were in black and white was a nice touch. Yeah. I really liked that.
Yeah, and I liked how they kind of played with the history of the character a bit, with how they depicted the costumes or the versions of the characters, and also when you take it further to Jason and Barbara, that opening works so perfectly because it sets up the trauma that each of them is coming into the story with Bruce having this rogues gallery impacting that, and then Barbara and Jason, it being the very specifically coming from the Joker's actions towards them. So yeah, I thought it worked brilliantly with a bit of a kind of trip down memory lane, but also to set up the narrative core of the entire series.
Yeah.
And one of the things that this story establishes right away, Robin initially came into the Batman mythos because there was parental concern way back in the day that Batman was too dark, and we had Robin brought into the mythos. This kind of plays with this idea of it's a morally kind of questionable situation that someone very young, multiple people who were very young, was brought into, Batman's world, his need to set things right. And so you immediately get this picture of Jason Todd, the Red Hood, coming at this pursuit of the Joker from a very different way, a very different emotional place.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he and Barbara and Bruce, they butt heads a lot in this, and it's a very emotional story from the get-go.
Oh yeah, I mean, Jason even calls him out, calls Bruce out about you brought me into this, this is all this is all your fault, he's like, this is unhealthy. Bringing in kids into your crusade is not, and Barbara, of course, sees it differently. She sees it as, Jason, where Jason sees you put us in danger. And then in my case, or in Jason's case, when he was killed, he's like, you forgot about me. You just left me, right? Whereas Barbara sees it as Bruce is trying to help them grow and find focus in their life and channel whatever things they're going through into this one thing. And so Barbara sees it as a positive. So that dichotomy is very interesting. But yeah, it's amazing how Bruce and Jason can butt heads, but then a couple pages later they can make a joke about how the second seat in the Batmobile is too tight for another person, and he's like, it's almost like you don't want anybody else here.
Yeah.
Which is I'm like, it's Batman. I could probably see that being the case.
Yeah, Bruce.
Right?
Yeah, you're projecting. Yeah, it was played so well.
Yeah, that's all. Again, a good bit of humor in a story that is very heavy and serious. So I appreciated that little touch, that little bit of banter there. And then, you know, the three crimes happening simultaneously, which kind of sets off the idea that there are three of them, was interesting. What I found kind of interesting, and again, I've never been in a crime scene, so I don't know, but you know, where Bullock and Gordon and some of the other cops there are like taking bets on, okay, which is the real Joker? Is it the one at this crime scene, that crime scene, or the other? Like, you can imagine something like that goes on between cops at a crime scene. You know, like those kind of conversations happen. Like, they seem like they're not far-fetched that those kind of discussions would be. If they were dealing with a copycat killer or something would go on. I mean, I don't think that there'd be levity, but the people would make those comments, right? So it felt very naturalistic and kind of on point. And the other thing that I found interesting was Bullock, when Batman is talking to Batgirl on his earpiece, and it's like, I think Bats has officially lost it.
Yeah.
Who's he talking to?
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like,
talking to Batgirl.
again, I can imagine, you know, the police listening to Batman when he's at the crime scene. If he's talking to them, like, well, like, who's he talking to? What's going on? And so that was interesting. Just those little things caught my eye and be like, okay.
And just to set the stage here, I do want to point one thing out. Initially, we're led to believe that Batman's on the case because of the murder of members of the Moxon crime family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we quickly learned that is not the Joker's goal.
Right.
That the real plan is stealing a truck full of the Joker-turning chemicals. And those really dominate this story because we see that the three Jokers do have this one goal, and that is to create yet another possibly better Joker.
Right.
So, Carlos, what did you think of those initial, like, you know, the all of the victims of the Joker turning chemicals and them doing the investigations? What were your impressions?
I like the setup of it, where it puts all the characters or all your protagonists kind of on the same page as the reader, in which this is a new dynamic. And there's these three Jokers. It kind of put the Darkseid War bit to bed, where you knew that wasn't going to be a factor, and this was something new and fresh in its own story. Yeah, I thought it was a great setup. It kind of harkened back to some of those kind of Silver Agey type Joker stories where he has these big opulent plans, and there's almost like that Riddler aspect to them where he wants to vex Batman as much as carry out crimes, but at the same time it's a very modern Joker story just by the sheer volume of dead bodies and the horrific things that he had done to people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool. And then that everything was under the umbrella of this chemical theft. And you kind of think it's a whatever, right? It's Joker stealing chemicals to do more harm in the future, but little do you know that it's kind of the the lifeblood of the entire story.
Good point. One of the coolest bits for me was the aquarium scene, where, you know, the three of them are going in there, Batman, Batgirl, and Red Hood, and Batman turns on the yellow oval for our good friend Pete, Team Yellow Oval there, is actually like a flashlight.
Yes.
And they make a comment, they're like, great, now you're going to alert everybody that we're here. Like, whoever's waiting for us is now going to know we're here because you've alerted them. And he's like, they're already here anyway. Like, Batman's already prepared for the ambush.
Yeah.
And what was cool about that, in that ambush where they're fighting all those like henchmen and zombified kind of Joker idea, it was very like,
including the Joker shark.
Yeah,
that was cool.
it was a combination of, it felt like certain aspects of the scene felt like something out of Walking Dead, like when they were all being cornered by those like I said, those zombified Jokers. But then you get that, you know, smiling, laughing shark, and you know, you see Biff Bam Pow kind of thing.
Yeah.
Somebody alludes to that. So it's like, you're being serious, but at the same time you're channeling the '60s, and I kind of love that reverence for, again, it's embracing multiple eras of Batman lore, and I appreciated that.
Well, and to go back just a bit with this,
Yeah,
I love that they had one panel that encapsulated where all the characters were at, not only in the story, but just in relationship to each other. As they're walking into the aquarium, and Barbara goes, "I love this place. I remember going here with my dad."
yeah.
Jason saying, "Oh, I've never seen the inside of it," talking, which speaks to his experience growing up and
Right.
reinforces his relationship with Bruce, using him almost more as a soldier. And then Bruce saying, "My parents built the place." Like, like who else can do that level of storytelling in a single set of bubbles
Yeah,
than Jeff Johns, right? Like it, and I love Jason Fabok, but even his art in that panel was very simple, right? It was just there's silhouettes from the back, and like just the storytelling in that one panel. Massive.
It encapsulates their backstories so beautifully without being too expository. Like it's not too long-winded. It's just like, all right, the rich dude, the orphan, and the
Yeah, and the girl who actually had a loving parent type.
Yeah, she had the most well-adjusted home of the three of them. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, no, that aquarium scene was one of the highlights of the book. In a book with many highlights, that was pretty darn cool.
And of course, this leads to the big moment that ends issue number 1. And that is after the clown is subdued by Batman, who leaves, we're left with the clown version of the Joker, the clown, Batgirl, and Red Hood, aka Jason Todd. And this version of the Joker baits Jason Todd into shooting him by saying, you've always been, you're my Robin, the way you've operated, you're mine. You represent me. And it's a brilliant piece of dark psychology. And I also really like this idea that, not only does Jason take him out and saying that nothing's going to change until we break the cycle. That was a great line.
Yeah.
But, when Barbara is very upset by this, he's like, when's the last time you missed, Barb? Because she throws a batarang, tries to stop him. And he's like, psychologically, you knew I was right. That's why you couldn't stop me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that this scene does with what he's saying to Jason is it makes you as the reader believe that this is the real Joker. Because only the real Joker could know those things that he's saying and could draw on those experiences and those conversations that he had with Jason in those moments leading up to when he killed him. Or in this book, they kind of insinuate that he took him right to the edge of death type of thing. But, and I guess like Bruce talking about the dead body, it reinforces that he killed him. But either way, those are things that only the Joker could know. So you're like, shoot, this is the real Joker. And then he gets capped by Jason. And
we even see a flashback panel to a death in the family.
Yes.
With Robin on the ground with all the blood coming out of his nose. And that was actually, Carlos, that was my first ever trade paperback.
Okay.
Yeah, I only ever saw single issues until that came out. I was at a Comic-Con when I was a teenager. Yeah. And so like I have this distinct memory of reading that trade paperback. So
yeah, and that image that they use is actually because the covers had just the narrow rectangular picture with the mostly black cover with the Death in the Family font, right? So I think that was the cover of issue 3 with Jason with the blood splatter behind him and stuff like that. So yeah, the artwork in this scene was just phenomenal. And I gotta say, like, that design for Red Hood by Fabok, how perfect.
Yeah,
with almost like that superpowers action figure look for the armor underneath the yellow or underneath the leather jacket, and then like an actual Red Hood, which I love as a touch to that outfit. It's I think he borrowed a bit of it from the Arkham Knight video game, but like such a cool look and such a simple thing to give that character a bit more badassery. But yeah.
To quote Joel Schumacher, it's very toyetic. So there we go. And that's
that was my favorite part of that McFarlane figure, man. Was that red hood popping out of the leather jacket.
No, but the mental mind games of that scene were just fantastic. I'm like, oh man, like this is masterful. Like, those words and that goading, that element of goading that he does to him, it really puts you as a reader in Jason's position, where it's like, even I want to shoot him as I'm reading. I shoot this guy.
Listen to this little piece of dialogue. This is what the Joker says. And look at you now, my little red hood, shooting up people and making Batman's life miserable. You are my Robin. Yeah. What a jerk!
but he makes valid. The disturbing part of it all is that he makes valid points. You took the name of your killer as your superhero identity. You took the name of your killer, and you're doing everything that Batman, that all the rules that Batman has laid out, Jason Todd has broken all over the course of time, let alone this issue. So, he makes as sick and twisted as it is, he's making some valid points that we're like, he's not wrong. And so
the Joker is never a stupid villain by any means. Yeah.
So that aspect,
even when he's being crazy.
Yeah. So when I was reading that aspect of it, all I could think of was this would be Heath Ledger's Joker. Like if they made a live action movie of 3 Jokers, this would be the Heath Ledger version, because I could see him delivering that speech.
Fair point.
Yeah, I can see that. It would be kind of the Nicholson for me.
Okay.
But this Joker seemed to be a bit more sinister and conniving than, I guess the Nicholson Joker had like the PG-13 version of that maybe going on.
Yeah, that's true. It just made me want. I'm like, I know I'll never get it, but I want this story in live action. Like it'll never happen. But man, I'd want it for sure. But yeah, no, that was fantastic writing, and the art that accompanied it really sold it sold the tension and the anger and the pain of it all. Like it was all wrapped in that art, and like that scene is, I think, the perfect meeting of the written word and artistry. And when comics are at the top of their game, this is what you get.
Oh yeah, not only like that scene, but just this entire series. Like there's not a bad panel in the thing. Like it's incredible.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I noticed too? I was alluding to Carlos before we started recording with the Batmobile. When I was first reading this story in single issue format, I was like, oh look, it's the '89 Batmobile. But it really is an amalgamation of the '89 Batmobile, the Batfleck Batmobile, and the more comic accurate one, because it has the bat face kind of on the front. So it's like an amalgamation of all 3, and I thought it was a thing of beauty. Like to me, a Batman artist wins me over on like taking the Joker out of the equation for a sec. If you're a Batman artist, you win me over in two ways. How the Batsuit looks on Batman, like how that look and that silhouette comes together, and then your take on the Batmobile. If you can nail those 2 things, in my opinion, then you get 2 thumbs up as a Batman artist. And Faybuck, just.
Yeah, there's so many things with his designs for this series. Like Batgirl was kind of the most just traditional look for the character, but his Batman is just
amazing,
so good. And it's like it's kind of the traditional Justice League Batman that he was doing during Darkseid War, but then he adds all these little accents, like the way that the cowl connects to the cape is very reminiscent of the Keaton Batsuit, as well as the belt and the grapple hook that he uses. But then it's still just got this fundamental glorious Batman to it. His criminal version of the Joker, how he used the wrinkles in the lip to kind of suggest pay a bit of homage to Cesar Romero, maybe. Yeah, and man, just everything was so perfect in this book, and just the thought and the care that he placed into all these things was just incredible to me. In fact, I don't know if you guys caught it, but there's the one scene where Jason is beating up some thugs, and it's actually the two muggers from Batman '89 that he takes out on the rooftop.
Yeah.
It's those two guys, but yeah, just little winks and nods like that, and you can see his love of Batman '89 shining forward.
Oh, yeah.
I remember there was years ago he was on the hunt for one of the Dark Knight collection figures type of thing. So, because
and all I'll say is, if Affleck does return beyond the Aquaman scene that he shot, if he is back, one of the things I'd like them to carry over is the Jason Fabok suit for Affleck's newer suit, because if my idea is right, and then Donnie, you'll lead us into the next portion of the story that you want to discuss, but
sure,
if my indication is right, and let's pretend that Affleck's going to be back after the Flash, I think when the world resets itself or does whatever it's going to do to reshape itself, Affleck will take on aspects of the Keaton Batman. And I think the perfect way to accentuate that fact is to have Affleck wear a suit that is similar to what we see here in Three Jokers. Because if you look at this suit, it has moments of, like you said, the Keaton, but the cowl has very Affleck kind of contours and look and the scowl of it all. So I think it would be the perfect suit for Affleck to wear if he is indeed back.
No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Like, just give it a tweak, and even if you look at Fabok,
I'll buy a hot toy of that. If they put Affleck in that thing, I'll buy a hot toy. I'll spend $400 or $500. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you look at Fabok's commissions, when he draws the Affleck Batman for people, he's done a couple of them. It's basically his prototypical Batman, with the chunky symbol on him, kind of thing. You're bang on the money.
Yeah. All right, Donnie, where do you want to go next?
Okay, well, we open up issue 2. We see the comedian having dinner, or so we're led to believe, for a couple of pages with his wife and son. And then this ends up being a meeting at the warehouse with the criminal, and we see that this was all taking place in the head of the comedian.
That was disturbing. That was... I almost felt bad for him.
Yeah, to be honest, like, it was so unnerving, because there's that moment with the son on the stairs, and then the mom trying to get him to come down, and you think that it's actually happening. Because she's clearly terrified of him, and the son has issues with him, and so you think that he's actually located these people and he's holding them hostage or against their will. And then it's almost even more unnerving when you know that it's just in his head, and he's envisioning their relationship to be like that.
Yeah, it's disturbing, but you feel bad for him at the same time. It's like, I don't know how to feel here. Like, it's really...
I just go Jason, man. That guy get the bullet too, I think.
yeah. But when I saw that, I'm like, and Jason thought he had a bad childhood. Can you imagine the son of the Joker? No. Oof.
Well, we also get a major story point here, because Batgirl tells Batman about what Jason did to the clown. And she wants Bruce to stop him, but Bruce says, there's really nothing we can do, because if Jason confesses to the murder, you'd be arrested as an accomplice, and you'd have to unmask.
Yeah.
And the unmasking thing, like, what did you guys think of that thread throughout this book? Because there's that moment, I think it might have been in book 1, where Bruce asks Barbara if Jim knows who she is. And then this moment here, like you mentioned, Donnie, with Bruce saying why they can't turn Jason over to the police, or at least using that as his reason. And then they kind of play with that later on in the book as well, with Jason saying to Bruce, like, there's things that you can't do because you don't want your identity to be revealed. I thought that was an interesting kind of subplot to the whole thing.
Yeah, for me, I took it as like, it seems like the other two, namely Barbara and Jason, if push came to shove and they had to unmask and leave that life behind, they would. But Bruce almost seems incapable.
Yeah. Definitely. And
I think that is largely because I prescribes to the theory that once his parents were shot down, Batman became the real personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
so,
no, I like that.
If there is no Batman, what would he know what to do with himself? Like what does he do?
Mm-hmm.
So that was my take on it. Was like I don't think he can. I don't think he can live without being Batman. Like even if you look at Batman Beyond, he's in the chair, but man, is he giving orders to Terry as if he's Batman?
Yeah.
The mission goes on even after his body fails in that.
Yeah. So that's how I took it.
So as the story progresses here, we see the trio go to Blackgate Penitentiary, where Judge Walls has been murdered by the Joker, and Batman found the fingerprints of a particular criminal, that being Joe Chill, who has terminal cancer. So what was your reaction here, Carlos?
Oh, man, I was like, talk about unexpected.
Yeah.
Like, I think the hint was probably in the use of Lou Moxton's mafia gang, because that kind of harkens back to those Untold Legend of Batman and all those stories from the 80s. But I was totally not expecting them to break out Joe Chill as a part of this story. And then like we'll get into it with the climax of the book and whatnot, but man, did that ever open the door for them to do some special stuff and tell some pretty unique things and explore some aspects of Bruce's personality and where he's at. That God,
and there's layer upon layer of Batman history here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just being, put together and fused, and it all works towards the end of the story. So,
and for me, the interesting thing is, this is where sometimes dialogue doesn't need to be written, because as soon as the name Joe Chill is uttered, you can visibly see Batman, even more so than before, which is hard for Batman, tense up on another level. Like it's like the anguish, the anger, the aggravation, it just ratcheted up to 300.
Yeah.
I wanted to say it's 3,000, but that would be an Iron Man joke.
Hey, speaking of numbers, though, did you guys notice Joe Chill's prisoner number on his cell?
Yeah, it was the basically first appearance of Batman, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, it was the first appearance of Joe Chill in Detective Comics. It was prisoner number 0331939. I love little story points like that.
Jeff
That's
Johns
awesome.
being Jeff Johns, right?
I love little meta points like that. So
incredible stuff.
But only a DC historian like Jeff Johns or somebody of that ilk would put that in there. Right?
Although you had that in Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
And I annoyed my oldest daughter by telling her what prisoner number AC231940 meant, and she was like, "Again with the lectures in the middle of the movie, Dad." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm educating you."
Right. Right. As you should.
Yeah. So the story turns then to an abandoned sports club where we see Jason again pursuing the Joker, and he finds dozens of bodies in this pool filled with chemicals, and we see that again they're all like turning towards this Joker version of themselves.
Yeah, this was kind of
horrendous looking scene, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, no, it gave it the feel of one of those stories where it's like, has the Joker gone too far, and are we going to see a tale where they just put an end to it all, right? Because there's dozens upon dozens of bodies that he's piled up in this pool. And as that scene plays out, because this story was technically a Black Label, you didn't know what was going to happen to Jason.
Yeah.
Right?
Continuity goes out the window. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Jason is actually captured here, and it's revealed that they reveal this to Jason, that they're trying to make a better version of the Joker to continually antagonize Batman. And that all of these victims were tests for the final product, but they couldn't basically tolerate these chemicals. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this part, at first I thought, okay, it's whatever, the first time I read it. And then looking back at it, when you see Joker revealing his intent in the third book, it worked better for me. And then reading it in preparation for this podcast, it was pretty brilliant in retrospect, because that would be the ideal way for him to strike at Bruce and to
the reasoning, which we'll get into in once we hit that part, is pretty. I mean, it's disturbing, but pretty on point. Again, the Joker's disturbing, but he's not wrong. In that scenario, he's messed up, but he's not wrong.
Yeah, he's not crazy.
And the psychological torture that Jason is tortured here. The psychological torture is that part of it has to do with the crowbar.
Yeah.
He's beaten yet again with the crowbar, even though he has the Red Hood helmet on at this point. Yeah. And he's basically left in a bloody mess for Barbara and Bruce to find.
Right.
Yeah, and I love that they really reinforce and play with the fact that the Joker doesn't want to kill them. He could, but he doesn't. Like, this is his sick, basically, career, and the way he likes to carry out his life. And, it kind of sets it up so that, this is how I spend my time, and I'll kill you when I'm going to die. When my time is up, your time is going to be up. But in the meantime, in between time, you belong to me, which is nuts.
Insanity. Yeah.
So a couple of other story points here. The comedian kidnaps Joe Chill and records his confession about why he murdered the Waynes. And also we see here that Bruce analyzes the Joker, and he sees that each one played a role in his career as Batman. And he's starting to see the differences in them. And again, we talked about that earlier in the episode, what they meant, like the eras that they represented, and Bruce kind of brings that out here.
Yeah, I thought that, how did you guys interpret that? Did you interpret that as being three distinctly different Jokers that have always existed for him, or that they were three elements of the one actual Joker that he had experienced over the course of their battles?
I thought they were, it was a way of taking the three very different, well, three of many actually, kind of incarnations of the Joker in the past, the types of stories, and making them into the incarnations, the distinct incarnations that we saw in this story.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in pretty much the same boat. I think that's bang on. It was just interesting to see. Anytime you see Batman reflecting, it's just like, man, the amount of crap. Like, forget about all his other roles, because we haven't even touched on those guys yet, because they're not really important to this particular story. But the amount of crap that the Joker's put him through, like how Batman's endured that over the years is pretty impressive. And he's as stable as he is impressive. It's like it really kind of, without going deep into Batman's mind, it kind of makes you reflect on, how is this guy not broken and gone absolutely bonkers?
No, it's true. It's true. Yeah, I chose to kind of interpret it a different way, that there was the one Joker.
Okay.
But as they've evolved and changed as people over the course of their conflicts, when the Joker, the true Joker or whatever, created the other two.
Right. That's what we see Batman say, is that there's an original that created the other two.
Yeah.
And that he made them to kind of embody their previous incarnations.
Yeah.
Bruce should have just strapped on the old Dick Sprang style suit and tried to take out one of them.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So we also see that in the course of this story, after learning that Joe Chill was kidnapped, Batman finds these letters that Joe Chill wrote expressing remorse for what he did to the Waynes. That was a really strong story point, I thought.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And it really, you saw Bruce really question himself. And I thought it was interesting to do that via Joe Chill, and not even so much Joe Chill, but to have a situation and another character basically, in not so many words, tell Batman to get over himself. And in this case, it was the minister at Arkham Asylum kind of saying, well, whatever your preconceived notions are, this is the reality of what Joe Chill was all about and where he was in his life's journey, right? Because he calls Bruce out at one point saying, like, you're just assuming that he's repenting because he's got cancer, but he had reconciled things and asked for forgiveness decades before, type of thing. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then you have Bruce flipping through the letters as he's talking to the minister there and finds the final letter that the Joker has written to him that sends us cascading towards our finale. But
I think what's important about those letters and why ultimately Bruce does what he does and makes the decision that he does is Joe Chill's remorse about taking, there's a part where Joe Chill says, what really set me off on a path of trying to ask for forgiveness is the fact that I took this boy from his parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Joe Chill uttering that sentence and him feeling bad about that is what kind of turned Bruce's perspective.
Oh, totally. And in a way, it puts the mirror back on him where it's like, well, did I do that to Jason? Did I steal his childhood by enlisting him as Robin? And that goes back to Donnie's point when we started this conversation about.
Because the whole thing with Jason, Batman was impressed that he was able to, with the Batmobile, he was able to.
That he had the gumption to take the tires off that thing.
Yeah, that was the impression. That impressed Batman.
Yeah.
Like he didn't ask to be Robin. Like Tim Drake sought it out, right?
Yeah.
So it's like Bruce is not actively bringing him in. With this, it's like Bruce is like, yeah, come along for the ride. You know what I mean?
I also like the moment, the scene of Jason when he kind of wakes up and recovers from what happened, the beating at the hands of the Jokers, that he's looking through Barbara's place and he sees like the old book on pain management and sees, kind of a parallel between, his time as part of the Bat family and her time too.
Mm-hmm. And how she dealt with the trauma versus how he dealt with the trauma, right?
And that was, I thought that was kind of a nod to saying, well, maybe some of this is wrong. Maybe I need to do things your way, Barbara.
Totally. Yeah. And I thought it was a great way of, like, Jeff Johns told a pretty profound tale about people dealing with trauma over this series, right? And he uses the three characters as a bit of a window into that type of thing. So yeah, that bedroom scene was incredible. Yeah. That he
but
they also shared the smoochy face. So
no, but like to me, the thing another interesting point about that is there's a reason why Barbara was able to conquer her situation and her pain more so than Jason was, because Barbara had first and foremost her father.
Yes.
That Bruce was also very supportive throughout that time too, but the key picture is her father, right?
Yep.
Jason never had his biological father. B, his adopted father Bruce thought he was dead, so he wasn't around. And C, when he did come back around, he had to deal with the fact that the Lazarus pit, that changes you a bit, but also he was messed up to begin with because, hey, I just got murdered by, I just got beat to death with a crowbar. Everybody thinks I'm dead and I'm alone. So like you're talking about two very distinctive situations when you're going through pain to have to deal with, right?
Well, and even Bruce just being, when he says to Barbara, he's like, yeah, I was just hoping that he would get through it like you did, but I was wrong. And it's like, I as much as I love Batman, I love seeing him make the wrong call sometimes, like the infallible Batman.
He's not the Bat God as some critics like to assuage to him, right?
Yeah, like the Bat God thing it's cool and it's badass, but it's also makes for pretty boring stories.
Yeah. So it's like, no, the reason why Barbara came out the other side is because she had her father, and you also played more of an active role. Jason didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So then the story pivots to the Monarch Theater, which has been condemned, by the way. And inside, Batman actually finds that I really like, a ticket stub for the mark of Zorro. And of course, we know how much Zorro influenced Batman's creation.
Yeah, we saw the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Of Thomas and Martha.
Right. Why'd you say that name?
I'd see you for that. And I thought, again, as much as we've seen the death of the parents 1,000 times. I couldn't help but hear, and look, see, I'm gonna give it props. So all the whiners online can't say I hate everything. I was hearing the Hans Zimmer as I was watching those scenes play out. I was hearing the Hans Zimmer theme and the Junkie XL theme from the opening of BVS while those scenes were playing out.
The old Beautiful Lie?
Yeah. Which is a great piece of music.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So inside the theater, there's a video confession by Joe Chill about why he murdered the Waynes. And we're seeing this on the screen. Barbara and Jason, they are attacked by some Jokerized goons, and Batman comes face to face with the criminal, who then announces that his plan is to make a new Joker with Joe Chill because of Joe Chill's past with Batman. And then this is my favorite part of the story, the whole story. Batman saves Joe Chill, but Joe has learned who Batman is, his identity as Bruce Wayne. And he basically says, you know what? You deserve to take my life.
Mm-hmm.
That all the pain I've caused you. And Batman is like, no, I'm going to forgive you is what I'm going to do. That was, that was like, I remember the first time I read this was Christmas Day 2 years ago. That made my eyes a little misty.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I got emotional reading
that. Yeah.
Oh man, it's profound storytelling. And it's like in this space where people that don't get these characters don't ever see them going, which is that they are aspirational. And like, just think of what it would take for you to forgive the person who murdered your parents and has set your life on this course, but you are able to make those decisions over a very short period of time. So basically, from Bruce goes on that emotional journey from when he kicks in the door to the cell, gets the letters, starts kind of finding out where Joe Chill is at, and this confrontation with the Joker where he's forced to save him. And not only does he save him because he's the hero, but he forgives the man. It's incredible stuff. Like, only Jeff Johns, man, would have the cojones to take it there.
To me, just like you said, like earlier, the idea of making Joe Chill a Joker is ingenious, because if Batman is at a point where he still hasn't forgiven Joe Chill, that would be the peak iteration of the Joker, because there's a real hatred there. And the Joker's whole thing was, none of the three of us we're just agents of chaos. There's no personal, you don't care other than stopping us.
Mm-hmm.
There's no personal anguish or care that you have.
Yeah, there's that disconnect. That's the piece they don't.
Yeah, if we make Joe Chill Joker, we own your psyche, your inner thought. So that's ingenious, the idea behind that. And then again, Batman having to save him. There's a character arc in these 3 issues that Batman goes through that some writers haven't been able to manage to get him to do in years, like in decades.
Yeah.
And again, it just shows, and I don't care about the online whining and crying and the cult going nuts. It just shows that Jeff Johns is a master storyteller, and if given the free rein to tell his story from the get-go and having full creative control, he can tell a masterful tale with tons of character growth in such a short span of time. And I thought, like you said, to get me to the point of tears in a Batman story, when 90% of the time, just show me Batman, kicking some criminal's ass, and I'll be happy. So to get me, it doesn't take much to make me happy with a Batman story. I'm very easy with that. So, but to take my emotions to that level is pretty impressive.
Well, and yeah, just to take it to the next step with that major piece of the story, I loved how they really reinforced the fact that Batman and Bruce had forgiven Joe Chill.
Yeah.
And he goes, and Bruce is the one kind of taking care of him on his deathbed. And when Bruce comes and holds his hand, that's when Joe Chill knows that he's actually forgives himself, and then he passes away. Like that, it's a beautiful moment. It's beautifully conceived, and then the way that Fabok brings it to the reader, because there's no dialogue in those scenes.
Yeah.
It's the medium at its peak, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a couple of things. So in the art where Batman is sort of rescuing Joe Chill, and he's got him under one arm, and he's kicking the Joker with it reminded me kind of like the cover to the classic Batman cover where he's swinging with the criminal.
Oh yeah.
You know, but it also like that heroic save with the fire and everything around them, and you know this guy, you know the bridge there that's burning. That was very, and even this Batman that forgives and sort of moves on.
Yeah.
Beyond his parents, it very much reminds me of the Val Kilmer iteration of Batman.
Okay.
The more heroic, like a little bit more. Okay, he needed Chase to kind of give him those talking to, but by the end of it, he seemed more well adjusted.
Yeah, I can see where you come from.
It reminds me of that aspect of Batman. That more heroic. Instead of the grim dark, like I'm always miserable. So, but we've gone through that. You know, he was that at the beginning, and then, as we said, he gradually moved to, I can be the hero that, the hero that Barbara looks up to, and that Jason desperately needed.
Yeah,
I can now be that.
Yeah, and it was cool to see Bruce get a journey as well, right?
Yeah.
With this, and a bit of an evolution with his character. So yeah, this is like, it's honestly my ideal version of Batman. This one that can kick ass and take care of business, but at the same time he's a caring, emotional type of guy.
Yeah.
Which I really loved. And then you had that baller moment with Alfred when he's like, "Oh, we'll never know who the Joker is," and he's like, "Alfred, I'm Batman. I know."
Goes, yeah.
I've always
the way he said is like not to conform to what everybody thinks about me, but I'm Batman. Like of course I know, right?
Yeah.
And the reveal of who, I guess it tells us. Do you think that reveal, that essentially that the comedian's, I guess it would be the comedian's wife and child are still out there, and they sort of fake their own death to kind of
that was
get them away from the Joker.
Yeah. Before we get there, that just to let everybody know, at this point in the story, we're at least led to believe that the comedian is the true Joker because he turns on the criminal and kills him.
Yeah.
Yes.
So super heel turn.
Yeah.
Turns on his partner.
So when he has that moment in the ambulance.
He's the Shawn Michael of the Rockers. That's what he says. Kicked him through the barbershop window. Oh God.
Now I'm hearing Sensational Sherry sing, the song in my head.
Anyway. No. But yeah, so I mean that revelation was a cool follow-up to the Killing Joke, but also like it puts a bow on that kind of sort of.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of tells us who the true Joker is.
Yeah.
And Bruce's logic of I've got to keep this a secret because if anybody found out that they're alive, if he finds out they're alive, then shit's gonna hit the fan even worse.
Yeah. Well, and it was twofold too, because he talks about not only the threat that the Joker poses, but just that society poses, that they'll have no chance at a regular life, and the Joker will make them a victim even if he never interacts with them, right?
And I thought that was a genius ending because I didn't expect to get that reveal of
and so when I read it this morning, I actually went, and that's kind of the beauty of reading stuff digitally, is you don't have to start the
long box,
Yeah, you don't have to throw long boxes around, but I went back to the Killing Joke and just kind of revisited those pages with the interaction that he has with his wife and stuff like that. And that Jeff Johns was able to conceive this story point between the domestic that he has with his wife, and then when the police come, to talk to him at the bar in the Killing Joke book.
Yeah.
And where they basically put this whole thing together where it's like she calls the police and they're like, well, you got to get out of here because he's a threat to you and the boys have given you some money to try and get your feet under you. And I like the idea that Bruce was taking care of her, like the mother and child of his worst enemy. Like,
that really speaks to Bruce Wayne as a hero.
Yeah, that tells you how much.
Yeah, doesn't just want to beat the criminals to a pulp. He wants to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And Batman does not have superpowers, so he's not a superhero by the actual definition. But to me, being able to forgive the killer of your parents, and B, being able to take care of the family of your worst enemy, makes you a superhero by default, powers or no powers.
Oh yes, no, absolutely, aspirational, man.
Not too many people, fictional or otherwise, would be capable of that.
Nope.
So. Like you said, aspirational. Which is why I'll never understand why people get upset about the scene from the Batman where he's waiting with that girl until she gets airlifted away from it. I'll never understand it, but let's not go there. That's another podcast. But just fantastic ending that really capped off the whole book. I thought it was fantastic. Anything else either of you wanted to add before we rate it?
We did one story point here. Also, in terms of Barbara and Jason, we see that he writes Barbara a letter saying that I'm willing to stop being Red Hood to be with you, but she never gets a chance to read the letter. Just kind of falls to the floor and is swept away.
Man, poor Jason.
Poor Jason. Yeah.
That's a shitty break. That crowbar's looking mighty good. When he realizes she ain't answered the letter, it's like, damn, that crowbar should have finished the job.
Yeah. And for people complaining about the continuity, because since this came out, people are just like, what about this DC event over here? What about this other DC event? Fabok and John set out to write a good story, and Fabok has said himself, he's like, I'm not a continuity hound per se. I just wanted to tell this story. There's a lot of history here, but if it doesn't line up with this point or that point, whatever, so be it.
Yeah, and I really hate the slavish devotion to continuity, and there comes a point where if this is an extremely special Batman story, like I literally am sitting 10 feet away from every single issue of Batman printed since year one, and
awesome.
It's not important. Like, that continuity is not important. The couple panels during Doomsday Clock and the Justice League run, like, yeah, you know what? If that's where the seeds of this project started, but not where the best story lay, so be it. Like, continuity is a prison of the mind to too many people. Like, I would hate to lose the glorious tale that is the Three Jokers, so that it connected to some nonsense panels at the end of a Justice League book. Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, like for me, I've always said, and this goes for comics and movies and TV shows, just take these beautiful characters, these fabulous characters, and tell me a good story.
Mm-hmm.
If it connects to something 3 movies ago or 20 years ago story-wise, great. If it doesn't, but it's still a great story, cool. Like, I don't care. My care is, give me a great story. Regardless of what medium you're telling me, everything else will fall into place. And I can't remember, if you're asking me to remember what happened, in the 3 years after Hush, continuity wise, I don't know.
No,
I have to go back through long boxes to find out. But who wants to do that?
Yeah, they're comic books, and they're not. Yeah, the continuity.
I'll go through your long boxes.
Yeah.
All right, you can come over. You can fly to Canada and go through my boxes because I ain't doing it. I barely want to do it to put my books away. You want me to do it to go back and you know how much work that is? No.
Well, that's why what Carlos said. That's why digital is such a great thing, because you have everything at your fingertips.
And I've backed a couple of certain stories. I've double dipped and rebought digitally. And Donnie, this will make you happy too. A lot of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run, I've backed up digitally. I have digitally now, so we can leaf through that whenever. But no. Yeah, it's like digital is perfect because when you need something, if there is something that's referenced, you can look back through Amazon /Comixology or DC Infinite, whichever, pick your poison, whichever way you want to do it, and it's right there. Like going through a long box, sure, the smell of the paper is great, and that sensation, but then actually having to, okay, which issue is it, and then having to put it all back, and it's like, no,
to store it and to have it. Yeah, no, I'm
That's
reaching
why-
critical mass.
that's why I'm
You and me both, man. Yeah.
A lot of my collecting is digital, and every month it's like the core 6 books that I collect physically still. If one title slips for 2-3 issues in a row, you're like, if you're not named Batman or Action Comics, you're in danger of going digital guaranteed, because I got no space for you. Like, I literally, like, so it's a tough. They're tough decisions every month. Ask Donnie how many times I change my mind in between the time that the order is due. So
I'm not going to judge you, man. Every time, I'm just like, oh, I got to get these new figures, but I don't have a place to put them. So who has to go here? I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, it's like digital. I know a lot of people shame digital, but like, all it means is I can read more books. So I don't see, like, to me, it gives me a chance, like a book that I would never buy normally, like physically, I'll give you a chance because I have the option digitally. Right?
Yeah.
So,
for me, it's like, if you're a collector, that's cool, and that's an aspect of it. But if you're a reader, and I've always been a reader first, like
me too. I'm a reader first. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Digital is awesome.
But I definitely do double dip with certain stories, and certain Batman stories for sure. Yeah, I have multiple copies of them. So and 3 Jokers is one of them.
Well, you guys have had my undivided attention this whole record, but I gotta say, like, in the back of my mind, the prospect of dipping into an absolute edition of 3 Jokers has now percolated over this record.
And that hasn't happened yet, has it?
I don't think so. That was gonna be job number 1 once we're all wrapped. Was
it's coming though, right? That's coming. That's
it's
an absolute edition of 3 Jokers is coming.
Yeah.
Okay, before we give this a final rating, do you guys think there's a possibility to sequelize this based off the ending? And would you want it?
Yes, I think there's a possibility to sequelize it, but no, I don't want it. I think this is a pretty perfect story. I wouldn't mind to see something that picks up from where Bruce is at, and the Barbara and Jason, and kind of explore this version of the characters.
But leave the Joker portion aside.
Yeah, I don't think you need to dive more into that. At this point in time, you can maybe have a scene with him in Arkham or whatever, depending on what this story is. But yeah, like Fabok and Johns with
more Batman, yes,
guys. Oh, yeah, give it to me all day long. But yeah, I don't know that I need like 3 Jokers squared or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
See, for me, if they do it, I'd rather them pivot to Jason and Barbara, because I think there's some things were left undone there. But the way things wrapped up with Bruce and Joe Chill and the comedian,
it's just beautiful. Yeah. It's you know what I'd like to see?
Don't undo that.
I'd like to see this as, but it's got to be an adaptation like Dark Knight Returns or Long Halloween. I'd like to see this as an animated movie.
Oh, likewise, yeah.
That I would say yes to, 100%. Or if they had the Stones, a live action. I don't know which Jokers I mean, it's hard because my ideal Jokers, one of them is approaching 90 or is probably 90. The other one is no longer with us, and I'm not sure I want to see Jared Leto again. So we are where we are with that. But live action, it would be a dream, Black Label movie. I don't think we're getting it, so I'll take the animated version. But yeah, I agree with you guys. Give me more of this world's Batman and Bat Family, but not necessarily more Joker. Like, I'd like to see this trio tackle Mr. Freeze, Clayface, the Riddler as villains, but I think we can leave the Joker in Arkham Asylum or wherever he happens to be right now. And but with that being said, let's give it a rating. So Carlos, we usually rate out of 5 for story and 5 for art. So go ahead.
Oh, the story is a 5 out of 5, and the art is a 6 out of 5. Like I adore this book. Like it's perfect scores all around. Like everything, like the nuance and the love and the care for the characters in Johns' writing, and just the designs and the storytelling and the amount of emotion conveyed in Fabok's art is unsurpassed. Like it's wonderful stuff. Like top marks all around.
Couldn't agree more. Donnie?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go 5 and 5. This is one of my favorite Batman stories. There's been a few over the years. I don't know if I have any that I like better, but this is in that top group, that top echelon of Batman stories, because again, it focused on characters that I cared about and points of the mythos that I really cared about.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like kind of the quintessential Batman story for a modern era.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, for me, it's a 5 for story and 5 for art. I mean, it is.
And how can you not like this cover? Look at how gorgeous that is.
It's
so perfect.
It's
awesome.
It's amazing. Huh. But yeah, no, it's perfect all the way around for me. It's a modern day classic, and you know, I haven't done a rating of where it falls, but it's. If I had to rank a Mount Rushmore of Batman stories, if somebody put a gun to my head and said, you know, pick, then it would be on there for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's just the action is there, the heart is there, the tension is there, everything. It just, and you know, the general love of the decades of Batman that have preceded it, while telling a story that I think is an open entry point to anybody that wants to pick up a Batman story. If your favorite characters are just Batman and the Joker, and you want a good tale, you've never read a comic in your life, I'd hand this to somebody.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I agree. To be honest, we did a bit of a reading experiment with it on our show when we had like the full complement of hosts. There was 2 of us that read Batman regularly, 1 that read intermittently, and then Tim, like our producer, like he's
more of a Marvel guy, right? He's more of a Marvel
guy. Unfortunately, and he hasn't read really any Batman, and that was his thing. He's like, he adored this story.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was able to get through it, and he's like, yeah, everybody knows that the Joker killed Jason Todd, and that's kind of all you need to get into this book. Yeah. So yeah, it was cool.
Well, that brings our review to an end. Carlos, we had a blast with you here. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. It was great to talk with you.
So, yeah, thanks for having me. I thoroughly enjoy it. And that's I'm happy to do this with you guys anytime.
Yeah, we were talking off air, Donnie, that we're likely going to have him back when we do our Flashpoint Beyond review.
Let's do it.
Surprisingly, another Jeff Johns book. You think there's a theme going on there, but
shocker.
Yeah,
he's written a lot of comics.
Yeah, a lot of good ones, mostly good ones. So, Carlos, in the meantime, if people want to get a hold of you online or via your other podcast, where can they do that? Give us your plugs.
Yeah, so you know what, Twitter is kind of where I hang my hat. So at Canadian Cape Crusader, so CDN Cape Crusade R is how it works, and you can find me weekly, typically on the Nerd Room podcast. We put something out every week, and yeah, thanks, man. And yeah, similar to you guys, was kind of the news and notes of the days with the DC, Marvel, Star Wars, and beyond. And we also dip a bit into like the toy collecting aspect of things and whatnot. And so, yeah, check us out if you enjoyed what I had to say here. And if you didn't, we got other hosts that you might enjoy as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Donnie, where can they find you if they can?
You can find me on Twitter and TikTok as the Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk comics. Let's talk collectibles. Let's talk Green Lantern.
And if you want to find me online, it's at Adam_LeafsFan on Twitter, where we can talk Batman, Superman, DC, Marvel, some wrestling, all of my multiverse wives, but you know that's a whole other ball of wax. There's also a Twitter page for the podcast network, which is at MMNPDC. there is there's a link to our Facebook page in the description below. Click that. I will add you, and we can continue the conversation there. But until next time, remember that Batman and the Joker struggle is forever, from the first Joker to the last. So long, everybody.
So long, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.